this is why the ancient tools and artifacts that I've been collecting that are sitting proudly displayed in the Stone Circle Museum are so critical and so priceless. The Torus stone and the cones, cone-shaped tools, ancient technology, and you start realizing that all ancient cultures had cone-shaped tools. We've just been missing it. Every country you go to, every culture you look at, have cone-shaped tools encoded. And especially when you've got a deity holding two cones, you know, this dude has got he's doing some serious work. Here's a Sumerian dude healing somebody with cone-shaped tools, cone-shaped hats used in ceremonies. Wizards have cone-shaped hats. That's interesting. And they have cone-shaped wands. And then obviously the cones of these ancient bird-headed beings and winged beings. And that's when we realized and put two and two together about the Caesar technology that was exposed to us in 2009. A brand new type of laser for generating ultra-high frequency sound waves instead of light has taken a major step towards becoming a unique and highly useful 21st century technology, used by the military, of course. So we realized that this is Caesar beam technology. Now, just like laser beam, but Caesar beams are not that impressive because you don't see a sound beam, you see a light beam. So we're far more entertained by laser beams than sound beams, and yet sound beams are infinitely more powerful. Caesar technology. What happens, this is another example of cone-shaped tools in the Rosicrucian Museum in San Jose, where they're inscribed with cuneiform text, telling us that these codes were used in the construction of the temples in Sumer. One of them refers to building the temple of Inanna. And that reminded me of Edlid Skalden, building Coral Castle, where he was seen by two boys apparently, levitating these giant rocks with holding ice cream cones in his hands. And this is just like that Mayan deity holding these cones in his hands. And that's why I called it the ice cream cone phenomenon, because you can't build a place like this, 1 hectare of giant 30-ton blocks carved and shaped and moved and stacked. You can't do that by hand on your own. It's simply impossible. All to do with Caesar beam technology. Now, how does this work? Very quickly, very simply. Sound goes into the cone. It moves faster and faster. By the time it exits the tip, it is moving faster than the speed of light. Sound has entered the 0 point, or the vacuum, in the center of the torus. When you got the torus moving in from the top and the bottom, where the two parts meet in the middle, that's what we call the 0 point. You enter the infinite density of the vacuum, as Nassim Haramein calls it. The infinite density of the vacuum. The place of all creation, the mind of God, the source of creation, the morphogenetic field, I guess you could call it, some people call it that. But what Nassim Haramein has done for us, he has shown us that the density of the vacuum is infinite. So, in there lies the answer to all things. As the sound moves into the vacuum, into the center of the torus, and it hits that 0 point, it enters the infinite density of everything. Now, when light moves through a dense medium, the denser the medium, the slower the speed of light. Sound is the opposite. The higher the density, the faster the speed of sound. How fast does sound move in an infinite density medium? Infinitely fast. Get it? This is why we can say sound travels faster than the speed of light. Because every molecule, every atom, every part of our body, every sound we utter, every thought we have creates a toroidal field. Every thought, every sound goes into that center torus that we create, and it enters the infinite density of that toroidal field, accessing everything in creation instantaneously. So careful what you think. I can read your mind. And this is why we can communicate, in ancient cultures tell us we can communicate with everyone and everything in creation at all times, infinitely. Because of now we started to understand, through getting into the toroidal nature of our reality, it's so much easier to concept and grasp this. Dragonflies. Those things in dragonflies are not veins and arteries, those are hollow tubes. that are filled with sound. As the dragonfly resonates its wings, it doesn't flap them like a bird, it just vibrates them. It sends sound frequencies through the hollow tubes. What is at the bottom of those hollow tubes? Thousands of tiny little cones. Those cones shoot out the sound frequencies, creating toroidal magnetic fields around the dragonfly. This is why dragonflies can make such ridiculous maneuvers. I was just sent this email by a guy in Bosnia, Serbia, where he basically tells me, you don't need to read this, but basically he says that he was somewhere, got out somewhere, and, well, let me read it, sorry. I will share with you experience of my wife and 4 kids on our holiday. My dad's village in Serbia, at a monastery, was demolished. As we got out of the hired van, there were thousands of dragonflies hovering around us, next to the rebuilt monastery and nowhere else. I told my wife to pull the digital Nikon camera out to take photographs of the dragonflies. She said, I can't, that nothing is coming through on the digital screen of the camera. The screen is only black. So I took it off her and tried myself, turning the camera on and off. I too tried to capture pictures of all these dragonflies above. Nothing. Every time I clicked, only black screen. As we walked away from the monastery, we tried to take pictures and the camera worked as per normal. So it seems like the hovering swarm of dragonflies and the toroidal fields that we're creating affected his little camera. It's amazing. Just a little story like this, it makes you just wonder about how these things affect our consciousness, our thoughts, and everything around us. So remember, if you hold a cone-shaped tool in your hand, and your thought is a frequency, so as you could probably use the cones. In fact, through some of the channelings, this is what we've been told. How did they use the cone-shaped tools? They didn't have anything special. They used their minds and their thought to use the cone-shaped tools. You channel your thoughts through your body, through your hand, into the cone-shaped tool, and that creates the Caesar beam based on the frequency of the thought that you have. So your thought is turned into the Caesar beam containing that energy. Now, you can say, well, I want to cut off the top of that mountain. Done. Right? Now, what do you do next? To move that top of the mountain somewhere else, you need more than just one Caesar beam. You need 2 Caesar beams. And this is what I believe happens. This is why you see some of these dudes holding 2 of them next to each other. When you get the second one, now you're in total control. Because if you've got 2 of these Caesar beams, these sound frequencies going out, they're creating incredibly powerful magnetic fields around them. You can take that and you can trap the top of the mountain or anything you want between those 2 magnetic fields. And what would you like it, honey, over there? Okay, no, a little left, okay. Right, happy? Good, thank you. So I believe that it should be that simple. Once we get to this understanding, and I believe our military is probably doing it, that's how I believe these Caesar beam and technologies work. And this is how I believe Viktor Grabinnikov also created his flying platform, because he studied bugs and bees and realized that they hover and they use their wings and bodies that are much too big, should never be able to support their body weight. And he built this platform that levitated out of bugs' wings. Most people think that it's nonsensical because it's impossible to do that. And yet, once you start studying the bug's wing structure, you realize it's all to do with cones. These cones on bugs' wings, just like the dragonflies. Here's a little video. I know that there's a whole lot of conspiracy about how this works with static energy.
One of these shells to hover over the other one.
There'll always be
the original
people doing hoaxes. So I believe this not to be a hoax.
What inspired me to do this series.
Interesting little video. If it is a hoax, if he managed to do it, good luck to him. He doesn't realize how it works, but thank you for giving us the idea how it works. So, Torus stones emit powerful sound frequencies. Very important. This is what I discovered. We started measuring very powerful frequencies coming out of these toroidal fields, these Torus stones. They're basically toroid vortex field generators. And even a little stone like this can emit up to 3,400 decibels of sound and probably even more. And this is from some hypersound experts that I've met in Germany and in Croatia. Basically, toroidal fields create scalar vortex technology and vortex effects and scalar technology. That's what you get from toroidal fields. We took one of these one of these Toruses, these Torus stones, we put it in a bucket of water. The next morning, thousands of tiny bubbles had formed. They were spiraling around, going into the center of the Torus stone. We've only done this once, but once is good enough for me. In 2013, I took this Torus stone to Nassim Haramein in Hawaii. I was invited to come and do a presentation to them, and this is the stone that crashed the TSA security system at Doha International Airport. It was in my bag. I was called off the plane, and they made me open my bag. 5 guys with guns. It was really unnerving. I'm going to make this short because we're really running late here. So eventually, I showed them the Torus stone. I said to them, it's just African arts and crafts. And I was really nervous. I thought, one of the fingers is going to slip and put a bullet in my head. And basically they were happy with the Torus stone. After delaying the plane for about 20 minutes on the thing. And when I got back onto the plane, my partner said to me, when the captain came out of the cockpit, he said, whatever was in that bag crashed the TSA security system. What took me about 2 years to figure out was that they knew exactly what they were looking for. When I took out the Torus stone, they didn't ask me to search the rest of the bag. It took me 2 years to figure that out. So they must have been told what to look for. I mean, I had a big bag and I took out the Torus stone, said, okay, good, put it back, thank you, back on the plane, done. Anyway, this is what's known as the Klerksdorp sphere. I was given one of these Klerksdorp spheres. It's called Wonder Stones. If you look on the strangest artifacts on Earth, these are classified as the 10 most mysterious objects on Earth. And here's a little video that I made of that. I recently noticed that my Wonder Stone that cracked and broke some 11 years ago when I first put it into the museum, into several pieces, has developed a new crack. And this is a very significant new event here in the Stone Circle Museum. That's what remains of the original Wonder Stone. These are known as the Klerksdorp spheres. They're mysterious stones that are billions of years old, and many people believe that they're actually made by intelligent beings, that they're not natural formations. And this is a huge breakthrough observation, because this stone that was given to me as a gift for the museum in early 2008, after about 6 months of me placing it in the museum, cracked and started developing a big crack, and eventually after several months just split into 2, and then it continued breaking and splitting more and more. Eventually ended up in these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pieces, or a few smaller ones. And it's been like this for at least 10 years now. And then suddenly I noticed the other day when I had a tour group in here that the large piece has just developed a new crack. And this is a huge new, discovery, because there's the crack that's busy developing. And I'm not sure what the stuff is that's growing on this. This is part of the ongoing research and investigation that has to happen here. But this Wonder Stone has now developed a new crack, and that piece there eventually will break into 2, and who knows if it continues breaking into more pieces. That dark spot in the middle is the center piece of this stone, this Wonder Stone, or the Klerksdorp sphere as they are known. And this is a huge significant event, and I will go into deep explanation why this happened, because now I finally have an irrefutable probability, statistical argument, I guess, if I could put it that way, why the stone broke and why it suddenly started to crack again. I will share that in a separate video. This is a very exciting little event that happened without me even realizing it. So I look forward to sharing that with you. Michael Tellinger, reporting from the Stone Circle Museum, Waterfallboven, South Africa. So the significance of that is I was given that stone as a present for my museum in 2008. I put it up there and it was fine. 6 months later I walk into the museum. Now this is 3 billion years old, right? This is a present from my friend. And this stone develops a crack. I think, oh my God, I broke the stone. What have I done? So what do? Do I glue it together? I don't know. I just left it. And the crack gets bigger and bigger and bigger and then eventually broke. The reason I'm sharing this with you is because that Torus stone that crashed the TSA security system was sitting 3 meters away from it. When I removed that Torus stone, the other stone stopped cracking. The little one stopped breaking up. About a year ago, I put a bunch of new Torus stones that I was gifted underneath, and within 6 months, the remaining big piece started to crack. So now we have a consistency. You bring a Torus stone close to one of those wonder spheres, they crack. I was originally told by Creator Mutwa that these round spheres were ancient sources of light. You expose them to a certain frequency and they give off brilliant light. When Creator Mutwa told me this, I thought, you know what, you lost your mind, sorry buddy, it doesn't work. Now I understand. Maybe they were sources of light, sensitive to frequencies, and when they brought close to a Torus stone, the energy of the Torus stone is just too much for it, and it breaks it up. So what we have here is cone tip Caesar laser devices. We have a Torus and a cone combination, and we realize that this is all encoded in our bodies. In our eyes, we have rods and cones. The irises of our eyes are just toruses. And the lens in the center of the iris focuses the light and the sound that we pick up into the back of the retina. And the retina is where we have the rods and cones facing backwards, connected to the optic nerve, connected to our pineal gland. So we got these satellite dishes that are working with picking up sound and light frequencies, turning it into Caesar beams, shooting down through our retinal, through our optic nerve into the pineal gland. It's like we're walking, talking, moving super machines, man. Everything is encoded into our bodies. We are as advanced technology as we could possibly imagine. And this is why all of us should be able to do this. In November 2007, there's a guy called Henrik Holter won the Saab Award for developing the most powerful antenna ever. It could transmit and receive thousands of times more powerful than any other antenna. And that's what the antenna looks like. A bunch of cones on a metal plate. Isn't that spectacular? Now let me remind you of the bug's wings structure. And you start seeing how modern science and technology imitates nature and all that. So free energy is all to do with magnetics or sound. Gravity, Isaac Newton, he was a smart guy. I believe he knew all of this stuff, but he published all that stuff about gravity as a hoax, or he was put up to it. I'm not sure what happened there, but everything to do with gravity just remains mysterious and weird. And we observe it, we can't explain it. In fact, when you look at Coulomb's law that describes the electric phenomenon, it's much easier to describe gravity with Coulomb's law than with this invisible thing called gravity. And if you can explain gravity with Coulomb's law, which means it's an electrical law, that means it's a magnetic law, and it brings us back to the toroidal fields. So it's a lot easier to describe gravity with magnetism that looks something like this in the toroidal fields, because everything to do with magnetic fields can be accounted for in this nature of reality we find ourselves in. Sound creates magnetic fields, moving magnetic fields create electricity. Everything is affected by magnetism, sound and resonance. We live in a magneto-electric universe. Even the precessional wobble that we get told of the planet can be accounted for by the toroidal wobble, toroidal magnetic spin. And this brings us to the real aha moment and brings us back to the Michelson-Morley experiment and looking for the ether. In 1887, not only did this most advanced scientific experiment ever prove that there was no ether, and the reason there was no ether because they could not find the Earth moving through space. This is the real story of the Michelson-Morley experiment. Forget about the ether. The big story was that there was no evidence that the Earth was moving through space. Now that is not a popular thing to say to a world that was trying to shove particle physics down our throat, shove a whole solar system down our throat, and shove the whole structure of this stuff. Not a popular thing to do. That's why none of us have ever been taught the Michelson-Morley experiment. The ether is replaced by particle physics universe. That's what's been shoved down our throat. Even in the Michio Kaku is found telling us that there is no scientific evidence or proof that Earth moves through space. If you want to watch a movie called The Principle, I highly recommend you watch that. It'll blow your mind. And once again, to remind you, the guys that we use to shove that down our throats, the quantum mechanics rat pack, by 1897, J.J. Thomson wins a Nobel Prize for discovering a theoretical particle. Just think about this. Nobel Prize for discovering a theoretical particle. Can you see how hard they were shoving this particle physics down our throats? Exactly. And then Heisenberg comes along and he tells us that we actually don't know what's going on. We don't understand how it works, the Heisenberg uncertainty principle, that we can never pinpoint where the electron is because it means we have to know where it's going, and if we know where it's going, we know where it should be. So the Heisenberg uncertainty principle tells us that there's something desperately wrong with this whole thing. Max Planck comes along with his whole quantum leap, and he tells us that the electron in the atom moves between these levels of energy, that it disappears from the one level, the one area, and then reappears in another area. So what the electron is doing, it's actually transmutating. It's biolocating. Wow, so now we get evidence of biolocation within an atomic model. That's fantastic. So this is very important to understand how they use these brilliant minds to assert and push the agenda down our throats. Because when you look at Max Planck, he was clearly a very conscious dude to make a statement like this. I regard consciousness as fundamental. I regard matter as derivative from consciousness. We cannot get behind consciousness. Everything that we talk about, everything that we regard as existing, postulates consciousness. Wow, they didn't tell us this about Max Planck, but he's a dude that came up with quantum leap. So, very important, there are no particles, just resonance and frequency. Electron is simply a coherent resonance in a toroidal field. The Rutherford atomic model is such a simple model to bust, it's not even worth debating. Okay? The theoretical atomic model is still the thing that gets shoved down our throats. Most of us still believe this to be true, when there are countless number of brilliant scientists today that tell us that's not what the atomic model looks like. It is a toroidal field. But thank God for one thing. It is like the nemesis of the particle physics mafia. And that's called the double slit experiment. You simply cannot get away from this. And to see, this is how brilliant these guys are. Just like they keep to that singularity, that you can't create or destroy energy, that Big Bang thing. So they come up with a particle wave duality as an insane idea of existence, of nature, reality. No, it's your psychotic imagination, and just because you're psychotic, don't rub your psychosis off on the rest of humanity with this particle wave duality. No, there's just sound, resonance, and frequency that manifests in physical form, and the double slit experiment clearly shows us that particles that they shoot out at these slits, that particle never actually leaves that tiny little barrel or whatever they're shooting it out of. It never leaves that barrel. It's a phenomenal thing. And then by the time Einstein's theory of relativity came along, it was the death of the ether, and thank God, because then that theory of relativity was used to describe, obviously, gravity and all that weird stuff, but thank God for Peter Higgs, because when we discovered the Higgs boson, the God particle, that then gave us the Higgs field, so now everything's back to normal, and it's okay, particles have a medium to move in, so everything to do with particle physics is good. Unfortunately, Homer Simpson discovered the Higgs boson long before Peter Higgs did, as they always do. If you didn't know this, it's fantastic. And then comes along Max Tegmark from MIT. He's like one of the biggest names in astrophysics. And he was involved for many, many years with the cosmic microwave background radiation at MIT. And guess what they found? You can also read more about it, find out more about it in the Principle documentary, where he actually talks about it as it came off the hot press. They found that the Earth is at the center of the universe. Not a popular thing to say in modern physics or science. That was their conclusion. Not only was the Earth at the center of all of creation, at the center of the known universe, there seemed to be these quantum levels of existence moving away from the Earth, like we were at the center of the atom, and all creation spans away from, moves away from around the Earth. You've got to hear Max Tegmark say this yourself, so you don't, blame me for saying it. This is weird, people. It just gets weirder and weirder. All I can tell you is that everything is connected through this fractal nature of resonance that creates magnetic fields and toroidal fractals throughout all of creation. And that still remains for me the best beautiful diagram ever made by Alex Gray. Just to show you the nature of fractals. This is the famous Mandelbrot fractal diagram. And the formula was created, and this is just spectacular. You go, this is like this infinite fractals. You find all the shapes in creation in this fractal infinity. But what I found interesting, as I started to go into this fractal, the patterns of fractals of infinity, as above, so below, I found that there seems to be a heartbeat. Look at this. See the waves, the frequencies, larger, smaller, up to a heartbeat right at the center of these fractals. And you go into those heartbeats, you get more frequencies and heartbeats at the center of that. And you go deeper into that, you get a heartbeat at the center of that. It's like everything is resonating with some imbued level of consciousness and energy that drives everything. And that really just tells us that the more questions we ask, the more mysterious are the things we find. The nature of reality around us is not what we are taught at school, but what we learn at events like this and research we do ourselves as soon as we forget all that garbage we get taught at school. And the question is, we're getting very close to the end of this because I see you're tired. And I clearly have to shorten this presentation for the next one because this is too much. What do we do with all this knowledge? What do we do with all this information? Because tomorrow morning, most of us wake up and we go back to our slave jobs. And we have to go back to the normal reality and do all the same mundane crap day in, day out, week in, month out. What is this life all about? Is this really worth it? Shall I kill myself now or later? Really? What am I doing, So we're going to realize that we're the ones we've been waiting for. If we don't do something about this, it's just going to carry on and on and on. So, just to remind you, the brilliant work of Wolfgang Goethe, none are more enslaved than those who falsely believe they are free. We need a new kind of thinking to free us from this economic slavery and this social slavery. A whole new kind of thinking, because we are not born free. We're born into perpetual slavery. We cannot move around freely. We cannot live where we choose to. We need passports and work permits. We need to follow rules and laws that we never agreed to. At some stage of our life, we get given an ID number, an identity document, and we belong to some corporation. We didn't sign up to this. At which point did any of you sign an agreement with your government that you're a subject of that government? No one. Never. Right? So this is not called freedom, this is called slavery. We are born into slavery, enslaved by money and the socio-economic political system. Our system is broken. It cannot be fixed. It cannot be fixed using the same tools that created the same problem. Clearly. And remember that it's not about the money, it's about the control of money. People often get confused by those things. Oh, look how much money they're making. It doesn't matter how much money they're making. Those that control the money remain in control. Those that make billions of dollars, they just let them make billions of dollars because they become the best disciples for those that control the money. It's the control of the monetary system that matters, not how much money you make. So money is the tool by which we're enslaved until we come to terms with what money is, where it comes from, how it's created, and who controls it. We'll remain the subject of those who control the creation and supply of money. So remember, money is a maliciously introduced tool of enslavement. Money did not evolve out of thousands of years of barter and trade. That is another lie we've been told. And very recent archaeological discoveries actually support that money was created, that money did not exist in ancient times. We see the rise of money and the appearance of money in the Sumerian kings list. It tells us what money is, where it came from, and how it was introduced by the first royal bloodlines, and how banking was created. When kingdom was first lowered to earth from heaven, that's exactly what these Sumerian kings tells us. The kings list tells us. There was a time when kingdom was lowered to earth from heaven. And these first kings that were appointed to rule over the people by the gods owned all the land, they were the first bankers, and their temples were the first banks. And in these temples, by these first priest kings, they started to create the first forms of money that were in the form of clay tablets. They were the oldest known bills of exchange or promissory notes in clay. It's quite spectacular. Nothing has changed in 6,000 years. The banks operate today exactly the same way as these guys did in the temples in Sumer some 6,000 years ago, and maybe even further back in time. So, solving our problems, very simple, but we cannot solve the problems with the same kind of thinking when we created them either. So we have to do something very radical, something very different. And the only thing we can do is free the world of money. Get rid of that system of control. But how do we do that? We cannot fight it, cannot resist it. That's old paradigm thinking. The more we fight, the more we resist, the more we're going to lose. We've got to change our way of thinking. Everything we've done until this stage has failed us. And Buckminster Fuller gives us a very simple answer. You don't change a system by fighting it. You change a system by creating an alternative that makes the existing system obsolete. And that's where the Ubuntu movement and the Ubuntu philosophy of one small town can change the world comes in. 12 years of learning through experience that fighting, arguing, resisting, opposing does not work. By using the tools of enslavement as tools of liberation is how we change the system much quicker than we could possibly ever imagine. Create a new alternative, no resistance, no protest, no opposition, no violence, no conflict. If we build it, they will come. And this has all resulted from all the stuff that I've spoken about this today. All this information has led to this point in time right now. And out of this information, the Ubuntu movement arose, understanding where we come from, how these things have evolved to this point, why we're such a species with amnesia, and ended up in the one small town can change the philosophy. It's become so strong now that we not only believe that one small town can change the world, but one small town will change the world as soon as that one small town takes control of its own future and its own prosperity and abundance. And to leave you on a very positive note, show you a little video, if you haven't seen this yet, how one small town can change the world, after which I will just give you some notices. Hello, I'm Michael Tillinger, and I'm the founder of the Ubuntu Liberation Movement. Welcome to the launch of our new strategy and plan of action, which we call One Small Town Can Change the World. So, what is our plan? First, we find a small town of around 5,000 people who want to participate in their own makeover, their own salvation, their own rescue mission. Then we find consensus between the people, the mayor, and the council. We identify the special skills and talents of the people. We identify the industrial and environmental potential of the town. Then we develop a razor-sharp business plan for a variety of community projects to match these skills and individual potential. These projects are actually meticulously well-planned businesses, but there is one huge difference between these and other businesses. These belong to all the people of the town, together with the investors that made it possible. Everyone in our town who participates in the transformation will contribute 3 hours per week towards one of these new projects. This creates a powerful free labor force that no other corporation can compete with. Then comes a really critical part of our plan. We analyze how much our town needs to consume of everything we produce. And then we produce at least 3 times as much as we need. We can do this with ease because our cooperative labor force. Everything we produce is distributed freely to everyone who participates. And the other 2/3 are sold on the open market to our neighboring towns and cities, or even exported if need be. But herein lies the twist. We sell whatever we produce cheaper than any other supplier. How is this possible? Because of our free labor force and the ingredients that we supply ourselves. And so, in a strange twist of fate, money will become the tool that destroys capitalism. It becomes clear that contributionism devours capitalism wherever it may be. This will lead to a substantial income stream from all our projects very quickly. From food to technology, healthcare to music, tourism to engineering, and so much more that would not be possible in a capitalist model. Why? Because it would simply not be financially viable. Set your imagination free and imagine how much wealth our little town will create from just 50 new projects. But what do we do with all this money? We keep it simple, as we always should. 1/3 goes to the investors or the farmers or the factory owners that turn their businesses into a community project. 1/3 goes to upgrading and maintaining and constantly creating new projects based on the needs and skills of the people. And the last 1/3 is distributed equally to everyone who participates in the projects. This provides for an elegant and simple transition phase. No one has to leave their job because everyone has 3 hours a week. And very soon, the people of our town will be receiving more money from community projects than their jobs, while getting most of the things we need to live for free. As this abundance begins to grow and our town becomes wealthy beyond comprehension, new projects will start up every week, giving expression to the creative talents of our people. One by one, the people who work for the mines and other dangerous industries will leave their jobs because they earn more money and benefits from contributing only 3 hours per week. And without any resistance, opposition or conflict, the nasty corporations will close because nobody will work there anymore. And the existing system will simply shut down and fade from our memory as we create a new system and a new social structure. At this point we realize that we don't need money at all. And yet we have more money now than we've ever had before. Everyone will know that money does nothing and people do everything. And so, in a strange twist of fate, we use the tools that enslave us to free us from that slavery and build an unshakable foundation in which the tools of enslavement have no more effect. There has never been a simpler way to unite the people and create abundance and prosperity for everyone. And there has never been a more lucrative investment opportunity to conscious millionaires to participate in creating a true utopian future for everyone. So, which will be the first small town to start the domino effect? Just one small town that'll change the world. Why not yours? So, this really takes me to the end of this presentation, and just to share a few more things with you. All of this is in the Ubuntu book, a lot of information. The One Small Town is not there. That is a new philosophy that's emerged of 12 years. It's really about prosperity and abundance for all. But before we leave here, I believe we're going to have a party or a little after event or drinks and that upstairs in the bar. So you're all welcome to join us there. And just want to tell you about the upcoming tours and events that I'll be hosting in the next few months in Southern Africa. Our first big annual tour is Dean Laprini and myself, Shaman Extraordinaire, the Sacred Sites Adventure Tour from 6 to 22 March. This is our 7th annual Sacred Sites Tour. It's really quite spectacular. We cover some of the most amazing sites in Southern Africa, in South Africa, Zimbabwe, Botswana. So if you want to come to South Africa on one of these, please join us. Then from the 25th of January to the 5th of February, I'll be hosting Samos Managij in South Africa, also on an extended tour. That should be an interesting one. And then in December, from the 1st to the 13th of December, what we're going to be doing is holding the first healing and meditation journey through the stone circles of South Africa, around where I live, because we now have irrefutable evidence and proof that the stone circles are beneficial to our health. We have people that have claimed they've been cured of cancer and all kinds of other diseases. This is now 10 years of research and repetitive reports and feedback. And even in January, my research team, for over a period of a month, we did several body scanning every day before we went into the stone circles in Adam's calendar. Took several body function measurements and a consistent report on improved body functions, from blood flow to heart rate to temperature to a bunch of stuff. And this is now very easy to start to explain why this would happen. Remember we spoke about the stone circles resonating the sound frequencies of the earth? Well, these are natural frequencies of Gaia. So what the stone circles are actually doing, they're amplifying the natural frequencies of Mother Earth. And this is why they bring our bodies back into coherence and harmony with the natural frequencies of the earth. And this has taken 10 years for me to figure this out. And repetitive people telling me how they feel better after being in these stone circles and how they've been cured of problems that they've had for a long time, including a woman that came from America and her husband basically to die, and she went back and told me she was cured of cancer. Absolutely clean. So I can't vouch for what's going to happen, but we're going to do this first journey, a healing and meditation journey with Matthew Ryan, a spectacular spiritual healer from Taos, New Mexico, through stone circles and Adam's calendar, amplifying the natural frequencies of Gaia. And then finally, I need to put a new roof on the Stone Circle Museum, because over the last 2 years I've been slowly but surely building it up with whatever money came in, and it is now sitting at roof level height. In the next 2 weeks the walls will be up, but at the same time the rains are coming. If we don't put a roof on it, we've just built a big bloody dam, and I don't want to pump the water out of the Stone Circle Museum. So there's a little box there at the back somewhere for those of you that want to donate. Make a small donation towards the roof of the new Stone Circle Museum. I would accept any kind of donations very, very gratefully. Thank you very much, and I'd like to say thank you for coming and listening to this very long presentation. Thank you for being patient, sitting through all of this. I hope it gave you some food for thought. Now what I'm going to ask you to do, go out there and share this with everybody. Because remember, once you've heard it, you can never unhear it, because truth resonates.